Reality is an illusion. Alan Watts explains what people miss. What if I told you that everything you believe is real, all of it is a kind of dream? Not a hallucination, but something far more subtle. You wake up each morning, you go through your day, you make choices, feel emotions, and assume it's all happening in some concrete, objective world. But what if that world is more like a painting than a photograph? What if reality, what we call reality, is not something we see, but something we interpret, something we participate in creating every moment? That's the idea that Alan Watts spent his life exploring, and it's the idea we're going to dive into right now. This isn't just a thought experiment. This changes everything. Watts, the British philosopher who brought Eastern wisdom to the Western world, often said that the biggest problem with life is that we think it's a problem to be solved. We treat it like a puzzle, figure out what's real, what matters, what's right. But that very approach, the idea that there's something out there that we must uncover, is based on a false premise. Because the out there is never separate from the in here. Your thoughts, your senses, your interpretations, they are your reality. You don't see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. Now, I want you to pause and ask yourself something radical. What is the difference between dreaming and waking, really? In both, images appear, emotions rise, stories unfold. But in a dream, you accept the illusion until you wake up. So how do you know you're not dreaming right now? You might think, well, because this is consistent. It follows rules. It obeys physics. But have you noticed how dreams do the same until they don't? The truth is, waking life has the consistency of a shared dream. We agree on its rules, but those rules are more flexible than we think. Think about time. We treat it like a river flowing from past to future. But that's only how we experience it. Einstein showed that time bends and stretches. Buddhist thought says the past and future are mental projections, the only real moment is now. Alan Watts took this further, suggesting that the entire sense of a separate self moving through time is an illusion. You are not a little ego trapped in a bag of skin, navigating a hostile universe. You are the universe, experiencing itself in this form, just for now.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This changes how we see everything. If reality is not fixed, not objective, but constructed through perception and consciousness, then what are we doing when we worry? When we fear the future, regret the past, obsess over control, we're reacting to shadows. We're fighting ghosts. We're clinging to a version of reality that exists only because we believe it does. Watts said, "The menu is not the meal," meaning that our ideas about reality are not reality itself. And yet, most of us live our entire lives eating the menu, mistaking the description for the experience. Let's go even deeper. Think about identity. You think you're a name, a body, a personality. But where does that idea come from? From language? From memory? From what others reflect back to you? Strip all that away, and what remains? Who are you without your story? Watts would say that you're not a thing, you're a process, a happening, a flowing dance of consciousness. You're not the wave, you're the ocean waving, which means you're not separate from anything. You're not in the universe, you are the universe, playing a game of hide and seek with itself. And here's the part that most people miss, because we believe we're separate, we suffer. We feel alone. We fear death. We chase meaning like it's somewhere out there, waiting to be unlocked. But if you're already everything, then what is there to fear? What is there to chase? The game isn't about finding the answer, it's about realizing you are the answer. And once you see that, life becomes play, not trivial, but sacred, not meaningless, but deeply alive. So ask yourself, what if everything you were taught about reality was just one interpretation? What if the world you see is filtered through beliefs you've never questioned? What if all the stress, all the pressure, all the fear, what if it's all based on a misunderstanding of what you are and what this world is? We're so used to thinking in terms of control, controlling outcomes, controlling people, controlling ourselves. But if reality is an illusion, if it's a dance rather than a destination, then control is the wrong metaphor. You don't control a dance, you join it. You move with it. You become it. That's what Watts meant when he said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. The self you're trying to control is the same self doing the controlling. It's a loop, a dream within a dream. And yet we take it all so seriously. We cling to our identities, our plans, our stories. But what if freedom isn't found in gripping harder but in letting go? What if peace comes not from answers, but from surrendering the question? What if the truth is not something to be discovered, but something to be realized? You are not who you think you are. Alan Watts on ego, illusion, and the great cosmic joke. Let's peel back the next layer of illusion, the ego. This is where Alan Watts takes us into territory that is both liberating and disturbing. Because once you begin to question reality, the next logical step is to question the one experiencing it. And that's where things get strange. Most of us believe we are a self, a kind of internal operator sitting behind our eyes, navigating the world, making decisions, thinking thoughts. But Watts would say, what if that sense of self is just another illusion? What if the ego, the I you think you are, is simply a mental construct, a social fabrication, a role in a play you forgot you were performing? Consider this. Have you ever tried to find yourself? Not your body, not your name, not your memories, but that core essence you believe is you. Where is it located? In your brain? In your thoughts? In your feelings? The more you look, the more it slips away. Like trying to hold smoke in your hands. Watts often compared the ego to a mirage. It looks real from a distance, but when you try to grasp it, there's nothing there. It's a story, a useful fiction, a necessary illusion to function in society, but not the truth of what you are. And here's the cosmic joke. We spend our lives defending this illusion. We build our careers, our relationships, our goals around this fictional character. We fear its death. We worship its pleasure. But it's no more real than a character in a dream. Watts wasn't saying that nothing exists, he was saying that what exists is not what we think it is. But the self isn't a noun, it's a verb. You don't have a self, you do a self. Just like you don't have a dance, dancing is something that happens. The moment you stop dancing, the dance isn't there anymore. Likewise, the moment you stop identifying with the ego, it dissolves. This insight isn't just philosophical, it's practical. Because so much of our suffering comes from protecting the ego. We get offended, anxious, jealous, insecure, all because we believe something fragile is at stake. But what if there's nothing to protect? What if who you really are can't be hurt, can't be diminished, can't be lost? That's the radical message of non-duality, and Watts was a master at translating it into language we could feel. He would say, "You are the universe experiencing itself in human form." Not metaphorically, literally. The idea of being a separate self is just a lens, a filter. But in truth, there's no separation, only oneness. Let's bring this into the real world. Imagine someone insults you. If you believe you're the ego, you react, you defend, you retaliate. But if you know the ego is just a performance, just a mask, then the insult passes right through you. It's like someone yelling at a reflection in a mirror. There's no one there to injure. And in that space between stimulus and response, you find freedom. Not numbness, but clarity. You're no longer a slave to every emotion. You can still feel deeply, but without being trapped by your feelings. This is why Watts often laughed when talking about enlightenment, because it's not about becoming something. It's about realizing you were never what you thought you were. It's the moment the actor realizes they're not the role, they're the stage, the lights, the audience, the entire play. And that realization, it's hilarious. Because you see how seriously you took the game. You see how hard you tried to win a race you were never running. And then you laugh, not because life is trivial, but because it's too beautiful, too mysterious to be controlled. So let me ask you, who are you when you stop thinking about who you are? When you're lost in music, in nature, in awe, where does the ego go? Doesn't it vanish just for a moment? Doesn't it feel like something bigger is living through you? That's not an accident. That's a glimpse of the truth. And the more you live from that place, the more the illusion of the ego begins to dissolve. You stop needing to prove yourself. You stop fearing the future. You stop grasping for meaning because you become the meaning itself. But in the dream of life, escaping the matrix of perception and waking up to now imagine for a moment that life is a dream, not metaphorically, but quite literally. Not in the sense that it's fake or meaningless, but in the sense that it's being projected, moment by moment, from within you. This is what Alan Watts meant when he spoke of the dream of life. He invited us to consider, what if you, the deeper you, not the ego, not the personality, but the consciousness behind it all, chose this life the same way a dreamer chooses a dream? What if everything that's happening right now is not a random accident, but an unfolding of your own infinite imagination? This idea might sound wild at first, almost like science fiction, but pause and think about it. Every single thing you experience, colors, sounds, textures, emotions, thoughts, they're all happening inside your nervous system. What you call the world is really a cascade of sensations and interpretations happening in your brain. You don't see the world, you see your version of it. You don't hear music, you hear electrical signals being translated into experience. The world isn't something separate from you. It's something you are constantly creating, like a painter painting a landscape and walking into it at the same time. Watts would say that our perception is a filter, but it doesn't show us reality, it shows us what is useful to us, what fits within our survival framework, what aligns with our cultural conditioning. In other words, we live inside a kind of matrix. Not an evil one, not a trap, but a dream, a self-generated, infinitely complex tapestry of beliefs, memories, and expectations. And just like in a dream, we rarely realize we're dreaming until something shakes us awake. A trauma, a psychedelic, a sudden moment of clarity. And in that moment, we glimpse a strange truth. We've been asleep in our own lives. But what does it mean to wake up? It doesn't mean abandoning the world or rejecting your responsibilities. It means seeing through the illusion, not to escape it, but to engage with it differently. It means realizing that your thoughts are not facts, your identity is not fixed, and the present moment is not a stepping stone to somewhere else. It's the only place anything ever happens. To wake up is to stop postponing your life. It's to stop believing that peace, joy, or meaning are waiting for you in the future. They're here, now, underneath all the noise, waiting to be noticed. Watts often said that the present moment is not a slice of time, it's eternity in disguise. It's not the middle of a timeline. It's the only reality. The past is memory. The future is imagination. But right now, this breath, this sentence, this awareness, this is where life is actually happening. And yet, how often are we here for it? How often are we mentally somewhere else, chasing a future that never arrives or regretting a past that can't be changed? We've been trained to treat the present like a means to an end. Work now, rest later. Hustle now, succeed later. But later never comes. It's always now. And the more we miss this, the more we suffer. Because we're missing our lives. We're missing the miracle of being conscious, of existing, of experiencing this vast, mysterious reality. And that is the ultimate irony. We're so busy trying to figure out life that we forget to live it. So, ask yourself, what would it mean to stop waiting? To stop holding your breath until you finally make it? What if you stopped chasing the dream and started dancing in it? What if you treated each moment not as a task to be completed, but as a note in a song that you're composing right now? This isn't about being reckless. It's about being awake. It's about realizing that the dream of life is happening, and you are both the dreamer and the dreamed. Watts knew that this realization could be terrifying, because if there's no fixed self, no objective reality, no guaranteed future, then all the things we cling to as security dissolve. But into what? Into freedom, into play, into the deep recognition that life is not a problem to be solved, but a dance to be danced. And when you wake up to that, even for a moment, everything changes. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You stop resisting what is. You stop demanding that life be different. You begin to flow with it. Why letting go is the ultimate power. Alan Watts on death, surrender. And the joy of disappearing. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey, if we're honest, where we're forced to confront the one truth we spend most of our lives avoiding. We're going to die. Everything we cling to, everything we build, every identity we craft will eventually dissolve. And yet, strangely, it's in the acceptance of this truth, not the denial of it, that we find our greatest strength. Alan Watts didn't shy away from death. In fact, he leaned into it. He saw death not as a failure or an ending, but as the ultimate teacher. Because to die before you die, to let go of everything you think you are, is to finally be free. Letting go isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's the most courageous act there is. Because when you let go, you're no longer trying to force the river, you become the river. You stop clinging to control, to permanence, to ego. You surrender not in defeat, but in awe. Watts often said, to resist change, to try to cling to life, is like holding your breath. If you try to hold on to it, you lose it. Life is breath. It's rhythm. It's the inhale and the exhale. And when you stop exhaling, when you stop letting go, you suffocate. But what does it really mean to surrender? It means allowing life to unfold without demanding that it obey your expectations. It means trusting the flow, even when you don't understand it. It means embracing uncertainty, even when your mind craves answers. And it means recognizing that you are not in control, and you never were, but that's not a problem. That's liberation, because when you let go of control, you also let go of fear. You stop needing to defend a story, protect an image, or chase a future. You become light, fluid, alive, and death. Death is not the enemy. It's the last illusion. Watts would say, what we call death is simply the end of the illusion that we were ever separate. Because if you are not the ego, not the body, not the name but the awareness behind it all, then how can you die? You don't end. You transform. You return to what you never actually left. You dissolve not into nothingness, but into everything. So here's the final question. What would your life look like if you truly let go? Let go of needing to be someone. Let go of needing to know everything. Let go of the fear that you're not enough, or that you'll lose what matters most. What would your life feel like if, instead of trying to grip every moment, you opened your hands and allowed it all, the joy, the pain, the mystery to pass through you like wind through trees? That is the joy of disappearing, not vanishing but merging, realizing you were never apart from life, never a separate self. You were always it, life itself, dreaming, dancing, dissolving. And now, maybe for the first time, you're awake,